Hi, and welcome back to the Modern Mompreneur podcast. I am your host, Dave Smith, and I'm so excited for our guest today. As you know, as a mompreneur, fellow mompreneur, I'm all about sharing the good news on how we as mompreneurs know and live this life of balancing raising a family and running a business. Such hard work we do, but we do it with ease and with love. And so I'm so happy to have Miss Debbi Sluys today. She is my Canadian friend and mentor. We met through our mutual mentorship program, learning about how to elevate our consciousness and our mindset. And we just clicked right away. She is quite a lady. She has a wonderful story. She is on a mission to help others to visualize and actualize their goals. And so, Debbi, welcome to the Modern Mompreneur podcast. I'm getting tongue tied over here. Welcome.
Tripping over in your excitement and passion. I love it. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Debbi's background, I'll read you her bio just so you know where she's coming from and who she is. Debbi Sluys is the founder of Dare to Declare, a coach, trainer, and speaker who specializes in helping people expand their brain's potential to see what's possible for the future through vision boards. I know we are crazy about vision boards. She is the guru. As a former child care director, Debbi has studied personal development for over 30 years and has facilitated and witnessed science at work by guiding over 1,000 clients to identify and declare their vision both online and in person at her very own Dare to Declare studio, which is beautiful. As an adopted child and a survivor of child abuse, her mission to support women to declare their truth is really her life's purpose. Debbi is the host of the Dare to Declare podcast, where giant manifestors come to share how they've turned vision and goals into a reality. She lives in Chatham, Ontario, Canada. She is a wife, a mom, and a glam mom. So she has lots of experience to share with us. So welcome officially, Debbi, to the Mompreneur podcast. Can't wait to
Thank you
dive
so
into
much,
your
Day.
story. Yes, yes. So tell us how you got started. How did you end up in the world of being a mompreneur?
Ooh, yeah. So I was in the world of not-for-profit. So as you read in my bio, I was in childcare. I ran a not-for-profit multi-site organization. I did that for 30 years. And I also, because I learned a lot along the way, I wanted to give back and share. And so I started doing workshops within my early years, community around Ontario. And I remember one of my workshops was the business of childcare. Now, there are for-profit childcares. I know there's a lot in the United States. There's some here in Canada as well. But in the not-for-profit world, it's almost like dirty talk, like to talk about making money. Oh yeah, it's like, and so they're like business of childcare. And I was like, if you don't think that my multi-million dollar not-for-profit is a business, then you shouldn't have me in charge because I am accountable to my customers, which are my families, to my employees, which are my staff, to my board of directors, who are the owners. Like it's still the same business structure. So I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I applied business principles to my not-for-profit, which was why we were one of the best and still remain actually one of the
Mm,
best in my province. Um, in that we sought to create a culture that would attract the best employees, retain the best employees. Those are all
mhm.
business principles. So even in my role as not-for-profit, I had that business sense,
Okay.
but I knew that I had a ceiling for what I could make in terms of revenue, especially being a not-for-profit.
Mhm.
So, after 30 years, I was making $60,000 a year. American dollars, that was probably around 45. Like, so, and it didn't matter how hard I worked, like that, just in childcare,
Yeah.
it's notoriously underpaid. And
Yeah.
so I felt like I was meant for something bigger. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so that nudge that led me to vision boards was as I was giving workshops and speaking around the success that my childcare was having using a new philosophy that came out of Italy called Reggio Emilia. And that philosophy involved play-based learning, interest-based, and I'm sure the moms here can relate because now it's kind
Mhm.
of the thing, but it wasn't 17, 18 years ago. And so we were one of the first in our province to pilot this new way of being because before that it was very curriculum based, like more like little tykes, like everything was primary colors. It was like
Yeah.
plastic everything,
Yeah.
where now it's like learning from children's interests. So it was so radical, the change in the childcare and in my children, most importantly, the children that were there, because behaviors went down, children were happy, the rooms were peaceful. It was just this huge change in our environment. And so I started to tell the story. And that turned into public speaking. Also, I'm talking in front of like 450 educators. I was like, this is really cool. But I also
Mm.
realized that the women, especially coming new into the field, some of them, like in high school, like guidance counselors would, they would ask them, what do you want to do? And especially like young women, 17, I don't know. And they're like, well, you can always work with kids. And so I would get employees then who came in that weren't really passionate about it and also didn't really have the confidence, and certainly weren't empowered. And so that wasn't part of my job description, but I felt it on my heart that I wanted to help educators really discover her why, her passion, her purpose. And so with that in mind, I started to research and I found Jack Canfield. And he is the chicken soup for the soul.
We
You
know
talk about
him.
guru. Yeah. You
We
know
know
him?
Jack. Yeah. Well, we know of his work. I mean,
Right.
we all had that in our house. Chicken soup for
I
the
know.
soul.
I'm like, if you didn't have it, your grandma did.
Right? Everybody. Yep.
It's right next to the Bible, right? So everybody had the chicken soup for the soul, like those inspiring stories. And so Jack Canfield also wrote the Success Principles, and he's really the godfather of vision boarding. And he was in The Secret with Bob Proctor and so many other greats. And so I started to study his work, and then I created my own curriculum, and I used it, and I created something unique that combined my Christian faith, my background in early years, understanding how children play and learn, like I talked about, but also how their brains will shrink. A child's brain shrinks if they don't receive the love and attention they deserve, and how we
Wow.
thought that was their plight in life, but we know now that with focused attention, the brain can actually regrow leafy type branches. So that really got me curious around the science behind things and how that related to early years and to our inner child, and then Jack's work. So combining that, I created my own curriculum, and then I opened my doors in 2018. As you said, I have a studio, and so I imagined that I would just be doing workshops on the weekends,
Mhm.
staying at my job, and serving people out of my studio, which was fun, but it was more like a hobby. Like I was spending as much money as I was taking in. So, I mean, I was having a lot of fun and I was learning and I was honing my craft and honing, the workshop, but I wasn't really meeting my vision for this being profitable and going past my 60K. Yeah. You
Yeah.
want me to continue on or do you want me to stop there?
No, no, this is good. This is great. Like just your journey. So you basically had this vision where you were leading these women in early child care development, and then discovering, doing your own research and realizing the inner child. Like I love that piece because you went from working with children to now mentoring young adults or adults, and seeing that you have a passion for it, and then opening your studio. So I know that you thought you were going to do it on the weekend, but life happened. Tell us
COVID
about
happened. That's what
when.
happened too. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so there was a day that I was giving a talk, one of my largest and first talks specifically about visioning. So it wasn't about my early years anymore. Now I was talking and not doing a workshop, but actually speaking. And
Okay.
I was so hesitant, like even to call myself a coach, and then certainly to call myself a public speaker. I'm like, no, 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 no. I'm a facilitator, and but anyways, I did speak that day, and it was October 2019, and one of the other speakers said and gave these two questions. What's the price you're paying for not following your dream? And then she followed up with saying, what's the price those around you are paying for you not following your dream? Now
Mm.
that hit my mama heart
Yeah.
and my grandma heart,
Yeah.
because my daughters, I have twins, I have four children, two boys. My oldest and youngest are both boys, and then in the middle, I have identical twin daughters. And at the time, they were both entrepreneurs. Now they've gone back, they work at the childcare. They both have children now, but they have an entrepreneurial spirit too. And I thought, am I going to step in and be a role model for them? And then
Mhm.
my grandson, my first grandson, had just been born the month before. And I thought, I want freedom of time. Like the price is too high. So it's not just about me, it's about those around me that like to follow my dream. And my daughter actually had nudged me even in the hospital when she asked me to be there when her baby was born, which, oh, it's like next to being in heaven. Like it's just such a miracle. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, I've had 4 children, but to actually witness and not be the one giving birth and to see birth happen, like, oh, I
Mhm.
just get goosebumps right now. But we were in the hospital room together, and it was like the middle of the night. Nurses are coming and going, and we're both awake. And she whispers to me, "Mom, when are you going to leave your job?" Because I had been doing this for 2 years. I had been doing the vision boards on the weekends and then working full time. And I said, I can't. She goes,
Mhm.
"But you can." I said, I'm really afraid. And like, because I was hanging on to that $60,000 that was secure.
Mhm.
And so that combined with those 2 questions in October, I decided to leave my full-time job. I gave my notice to my board of directors. And I thought, well, after 30 years, I need to give them 6 months. So I said, I'll leave in July. And that was January 2020. And unbeknownst to me and the rest of the world, all of a sudden the world was going to shut down.
Yeah.
And God had other plans for me because I have never been so afraid in that I just left my job. Like I said, it's not for profit. There's no pension. Like I
Yeah.
had been doing my own little savings thing, but I had no pension. I had no plan B. I was going to step full time into doing workshops in person. That's the only way I knew how to do them.
Yeah.
And so what I did do was hire a coach. And I knew enough then. I remember paying $3,000 for that coaching program, and I thought that I was going to throw up. I had never invested that much money in my life. So this isn't that long ago. Like things,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. So, right? That's 4 years ago. Like,
Goodness. Look, we
and
are now.
I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? And it was the best thing. And it helped me realize that I could take vision boards online. And all of a sudden, instead of just doing in-person workshops in my studio and having, a circumference area of, 300 miles, all of a sudden I was able to be in Dubai and South Africa and Ireland and UK and everywhere in the United States. And I had now a global platform. And what I also helped me realize was I have something so unique that no one else is doing vision boards in this way.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. I was only in my own little bubble. But when
Yeah.
I started to hear other coaches tell me, Deb, this is really special. And I was like, really?
Mhm.
They're like, we want to use this in our coaching because it aligns with what we're doing around neuroscience, around focus, around goals. I was like,
Mhm.
okay. They're like, can we use it? I'm like, just give me credit. I don't know. And it was like really willy nilly. And then I was like,
Yeah.
oh, God is tapping me on the shoulder. Like, girl, I got big plans for you. And I was like, no, no, this
Big
is the
one.
first
Yes.
piece. And
Yeah.
so I started an academy, as you said. So that's where now I train trainers. And I'm so excited, Day, that you're in this program. And yeah, and we have, so with you and your fellow student, we have 44 people that are in the academy in 5 different countries. And it's just become my beautiful legacy business. And it just started with
Yeah.
a single idea, like, what if?
Yeah, yeah. So, news alert, breaking news alert. I am in the Dare to Declare Academy, and I'm super excited. When Debbie and I booked this podcast, that was not on the table at all. We were just connecting. As I admired her, I knew what she did. I loved her methodology around vision planning, vision boarding. And we booked this months ago. And just recently, I was thrust into the vision boarding world a little bit and I had to lead. And I was like, you know what, Debbie? What you teach is so unique and you're absolutely right. It's very different from anything else. And that's how you know you're in your zone of genius. Because a lot of times we will hesitate on going for our goals because we think it's a crowded market. Everyone's making tumblers, everyone's doing hair, everyone is a coach, everyone is doing this. But when you truly are doing what is what you're called to do, like living in your purpose, you will find that the way you do it is so unique. And that's what Debbie has found, because what she does is so unique. And she does it in the spirit of giving and sharing and like really genuine and authentic, and find out what is this what is this person's why? What do they want to achieve? And I love what who your mentor or your colleague that said, who are you not serving basically by not going for your goals? Whether that's externally, your clients, or internally, your family. So think about that, mompreneurs. It is a challenge stepping out on faith, going for your goals in the midst of raising kids or grandkids or whatever, being a wife. But think about what's possible. Debbie never knew she was going to be doing all this. She's in education, childcare. She's successful there. This is completely different. And it's crazy how it's not crazy because that's how God works, but you met someone in October, you decided through the birth, your daughter's your grandchild, she whispered something to you, and then you took a leap of faith, and then the pandemic happened. And then you was like, you kept going, because a lot of times people could have said, "Oh, I need to dial it back. Let me run back to this job and this security." But you didn't do that. Like that is just it's just amazing. And you have Dare to Declare, which I love that name, because it's like, I dare you to do it. Like courageous steps forth, and that's really what I love. So love that story. It's definitely one that I've heard it, but I don't know. I want to hear it again. I want to hear it in a different way. And I wanted to definitely have it shared on the podcast, because I think anybody who's in that position can take that. Even when you talked about um, you're scared, you say, I can't do it. And your daughter was like, yes, you can. I mean, why do we do that? Why do we? It's just like a psychological like barrier. Like we say we can't do it, but we really can. So, yeah, I would love to explore that with you. Like, what about what happened where you said, okay, I will? You pushed aside that can't. I feel like that's where a lot of us are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Me
Mm-hmm.
and others.
Makes me think about this equation. So if you're listening here and you've got a paper, pen, you might want to just write these three letters down. It's E plus R equals O. And E stands for the event. And so all of us have events that have either happened to us or happening right now. I had the pandemic. Like that was my big event. Now the O stands for the outcome. And most people go right from E to O to say, okay, so the pandemic happened. That means that I can no longer do, in my case, I'm just going to use my example, I can no longer do in-person workshops. My studio's closed. You can only gather a certain number of people. You can't travel,
Yeah.
like all those things. So that means that I'm going to go to my logical mind to say that means that I can't have a business. I guess I just need to go back, run back, and beg for my job back. But what they forget is the R. And as Jack Canfield talks about in his success principles, the very first one is responsibility. Now, responsibility, I'm a preacher's daughter. And my grandpa was a preacher too. And there was just a lot of responsibility as being part of a pastor's family, living in front of the church, basically like a glass house for sure. And I hated the word responsibility, especially as a teenager. I was that movie Footloose? I wasn't as bad as her, but
You were rebel.
I I loved that movie because I was like, oh my word, yeah, she's me. But I didn't like the word responsibility. However, when I looked at it again through fresh eyes, especially doing this work with self-awareness and with Jack Canfield, I realized that when you pull that word apart, it's response and ability. So you have the ability to respond. So instead of it feeling like it's imposed upon you and feeling really heavy on your shoulders, like, I have responsibility, it's I have a responsibility. No one else has this ability to respond to my events, to my life. And so then it becomes empowering. And actually that R, which is the response, becomes your superpower. And so when I decided to hire a coach, when I decided to do a power word workshop, which is a mini vision board online, I had 65 people register. I've created 10 paying clients. And that actually has still been my staple workshop. In fact, this is how Day and I connected, and that she had me offer that power word, and she's going to have that as part of the academy too, as this
Mhm.
little mini vision board experience. That little workshop is so lucrative. I mean,
Mhm.
I make in one day with that workshop what I used to make all month at my job as a childcare director.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
make $5,500 in one day, right?
Yeah.
So 5,000 times 12 is $60,000. I make that
Yeah.
in one day now. So I wouldn't have created that workshop had I not decided to respond. So that
Mm.
is the main key, is it is in your response. And so what gave me the courage, it's so much around belief. Like doing a vision board, there's three parts: ask, believe, and receive. Ask for
Mhm.
what you want. And I know Day and I are both Christians, so I hope this is okay to speak in this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So asking is like a prayer, and God instructs us to ask. Because sometimes asking gets a bad rap, like, oh, it's selfish. No. Why do you think he gave us the Lord's Prayer? Give us our daily bread. Like
Ask.
we are supposed to ask and be specific.
Yeah.
And then the other part is we are to glorify him, to honor
Mhm.
him. Our Father
Mhm.
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And so you glorify him when you're living your life intentionally.
Mhm.
And how do you do that? You believe. So that's the second part, is believe. Believe that all things are for my good. Now that's where it really comes to be serving and
Yeah.
being in a state of generosity and service. I don't mean giving from an empty cup. I don't mean giving where people are taking advantage of you. Day and I actually had this conversation. We're just talking about service and how to give from a really great place. If you know that inner nudge where you're like, you know what? I think I could give this. I think this feels
Yeah.
really good to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more that you give, the more then the last part is receive. The more you will receive. Again, very biblical, but it's so true. And
Yeah.
so be open, because the trickiest part is actually the receiving. We
It
are
is.
we're
I was going to
typically not
say
good listeners.
graciously receive. We struggle with that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
As women, we can't even receive a compliment. Someone
Mhm.
offers us a coffee, or I think the ask and the receive both, I think, we're challenged as women, because
Yeah.
somebody asks, what do you want for Christmas? Oh, honey, keep your money.
Yeah.
Like I always say that to my kids, but my daughters are like, Mom, you are so fun to shop for. Like
Oh.
you're so girly. Like we love shopping for you. And so if I don't o- ask, or if I don't leave myself open to receive, I rob them of being able
Mhm.
to give to me.
Mm. Yes, of giving. Yes, that's so true. That's so true. I even think the belief part is a struggle because we're so conditioned to settle and to take um we kind of lose our ability to imagine and to think beyond where we are. And we may not have people or circumstances around to like cultivate that belief and hope. So I think a lot of us, we struggle with it all. Asking, believing, and receiving is all work that we have to really be intentional about. But I love that. So when you're doing, let's talk about your vision board workshop, either your mini word, or just a full workshop. What is Why do you feel like yours is different from anybody else who's doing vision boarding?
Hmm. The one defining thing, I would say that the whole reason that I was about creating a board is
Mhm.
one of the defining features that makes it so different. And I'll give you an example. And I actually was interviewed by Jack Canfield in 2021. I got to fly to California and be interviewed for his Success TV. And the reason I know it's unique is because his response. So
Mhm.
imagine having your mentor, the person you look up to, and then you give back the information that he gave you in a new way, and he's impressed. Like it was such a surreal moment. But I gave him this story. I said, I liken a vision board to um, being like God has given us this life. So a parent gives a child a gift. So in my case, I gave my son, my oldest son, he's now 32, slippers. He used to live in Western Canada, so I'd only see him maybe once a year, sometimes every other year. He didn't
Okay.
come home that often. So slippers, okay? So I didn't really, I'm like, does he even wear slippers? Like, am I just being an old-fashioned mom? Like, I didn't even really know, like, for sure his foot size. So I gave those slippers to him for Christmas. He opens them up and, he's just polite, like, thanks, mom. And I'm like, you're welcome. But I'm like, Anyways, about an hour later, he's like trotting around the house wearing these slippers. And I was like, oh, you like them, bud? And he's like, moo. He calls me moo, which is Dutch for mooter. He's like, moo, I love them.
Oh.
And I said, oh, and it made me so happy to see him wearing the slippers. And so if you think about the vision board, it's an expression of fully wearing this life that God has given us. So
Mm.
it's like wearing slippers from God. That's what Jack Canfield said. He goes, because you are dreaming as large as possible to what's possible into this beautiful gift of life. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't dream and you don't create a vision, you're like a child who receives a gift and throws it into the back of the closet and just like,
Mm.
I got this gift, maybe I'll use it, maybe I won't, or I'll
Yeah.
just, give them to somebody else. You're not demonstrating gratitude. And so for anyone that's listening, belief is definitely tied to gratitude. So if you want to build the muscle of belief, start your day with a practice of gratitude. And you can
Wow.
start with looking behind you, what has already been received. What are things that it's like, I don't know how that happened. Like, well, we do know, but it just feels like a miracle, the things that
Yeah.
have happened. And the small things, like just start making a list of things that you're grateful for. You know how many people in the world don't have clean water and a roof over their head and, you know, money in their bank account? Like
Yeah.
so many people in the world, and we have that. And then I would challenge your listener to think about being grateful for what has not yet occurred. And that's radical gratitude. And that's
Mm-hmm.
where you build trust, and that's the muscle of belief, is that when you wake
Mm-hmm.
up in a state of gratitude, feeling grateful for what has not yet occurred, like I did this morning, thinking about this interview with you, this podcast with you, thinking like I'm feeling grateful. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't, but I'm just like, thank you, God, for this amazing life that I get to lead. This life
Mm-hmm.
that I only was an idea, 6 years ago. What if?
Yeah.
And so that spirit of gratitude will definitely, like going to the gym, it will work a muscle, and your
Yeah.
belief will definitely grow. And then as crisis comes and challenges come, you can breathe. That's the first thing I would say, is take a deep breath.
Mm.
That's what we're gifted, is breath, to calm our body, to self-regulate. And then it's about trusting that all things are for my good. So what is it? Is there a lesson here? Am I being protected from something? Is this not
Mm-hmm.
supposed to happen? Where is there, can I mine for the good in this situation? Even if
Mine
it's
was
one second.
good. I love that. Yeah. Well, I would say you hearing you say that, the one thing that stands out to me is that your vision board, it's like an expression of your future gratitude. And that's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. You're not just thinking, you're not just thankful for what has happened. You're thankful for what is going to happen. And that is expressed by you visioning it, putting it down on paper, whether it's your mini word or your big vision board, and you are expressing gratitude because that's something you want to happen. You're looking at it every day, you're believing it. And I believe what you want. I believe when you do that and you are giving it back to the universe, to God, it comes to fruition. That's the law. That's how he works. That's how it works. You are expressing something that he's given you, and he will answer. He will always answer. Whether it's those things on the board, whether it's the realization of what you just said, like the what is the lesson to be learned here, whatever it is, it's gonna come out and be a beautiful situation. So I love that. And that is what makes this difference. So any mompreneurs or mom dads listening, Take time to really identify what is it that you want. Like, what is your desire? What ideas do you have, as scary as they may seem, and put them down in a vision on a vision board, some sort of visual, and ask, believe, and receive. Follow that methodology. Take into account what Debbie said about her equation. Events plus opportunities equals our ability to respond. How are we going to do that? So love it, love it. Thank you, Debbie. Um, well, we're going to transition to our my favorite part of the podcast, and that is the lightning round. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and whatever comes to the top of your head, say it. You don't even have to explain it if you don't want to. You can just leave it on the table. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
I think so.
Okay. It's fun. Don't worry.
Okay.
Question number one. What are three words to describe you today?
Um, Fun, grace, and curious.
Love it. What would you tell your 18-year-old self today?
Make a vision board. and hire a mentor.
Mm, love it, love it, love it. All right. What does it mean to you to be a modern mompreneur or modern glampreneur? You can answer it either way. What does that mean to you?
It means that in my marriage, it's to have really clear communication, direct, honest, and loving, and to know that I don't need to do it alone, and that especially in a partnership, that it's a I'm in his business and he's in my business, because with the children, especially, like, it was like when he had them, he was babysitting, and when had them, I was mothering. And so I think as a modern mom, it's equal. It's fathering and mothering. And to carve out space for yourself. This is what I see with my daughters too, to carve out space for yourself to work on your business and in your business.
Got it. Love that. I love that you touched on partnership for sure. What do you love about being a mom or grandma?
I love I love the adult relationships now that I have with my children. Um, and to those that are young moms, and you sometimes think, oh my word, I yelled, I wish I hadn't said those things to my kids, or I wish I would have noticed this. I'm on the other side of it, and I remember apologizing to my kids, and I said, I was so tired sometimes, and I'm sorry that I yelled. And they're like, Mom, what are you talking about? So I had
Mm,
been hanging on to guilt and shame about these things, and finally had the courage to ask them. And they're like, we don't remember that, Mom. We remember, like, you baking with us. We remember you taking us to the snow hill and sledding with us. And we remember, cozy picnics. And I'm like, really? Like, you don't remember? They're like, we don't even know what you're talking about. So I want you to hang on to that to forgive yourself. And today's a new day. And to I'll give you this as well. Toni Morrison, she was on a book club with Oprah, and this is the name of my studio. Actually, this is the namesake of my studio, because she said, when a child walks in the door, what does your face do? Do you notice their messy face and ripped jeans or whatever, and they've gotten all dirty, or does your face light up? And I gave that also to my educators when I was still at the childcare, and I said, just when the child walks through the door and the parent, smile,
mhm,
let your face
mhm.
light up. Don't judge anything else, however you might be feeling. And so, actually, the name of my studio is the Light Up Studio. So
Yeah,
that's
I
another
love
thing I would say, is just give your love on your kids, because you actually grow their brains with simple eye contact and love.
Yes, yes, love it, love it. Um, well, this is great. What do your kids think of you as an entrepreneur, as a
Oh,
mom? What do you think they think?
well, they
What have
actually
you
tell
told
me,
them?
because
Okay,
um,
good.
they're really, really proud of me. They're really proud of me. And I know this because I was just featured in the newspaper, our local paper,
Mm-hmm.
and I did a retreat and I brought a celebrity PR and marketing person from New York to my place here in Ontario. And we made the paper, and my daughter was like sharing it on her social media. Like, this is my mom. And I'm like,
Oh,
so, I mean, I can get accolades from all different places, but when you get it from your own kids,
yeah.
it's amazing. And even my youngest son, he's 20, he's such a gentleman, but every time I'm like, hey, bud, how are you? He's away at college. And when he comes home, he always goes, and how's your week, mom? What's new? Like, I like, he's really interested. And it's just
Yeah.
so cool. So yeah,
You've done a
they're
great
proud of me.
job. You've done a great job. I love it. I love, love, love that you have that relationship with them, even as adults. I love it. Um, okay, last question. Oh, you know what? Two more questions. What are you reading, watching, and or listening to, depending on what you prefer? What are you reading, watching, or listening to right now?
I'm reading actually daily. I read and study books like Think and Grow Rich,
Mm-hmm.
Neville Goddard, Earl Nightingale, like Lead the Field.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just put some books away because I'm going on vacation in a couple of weeks, and I'm reading through Patty Aubrey's Permission Granted book. So Patty Aubrey is Jack Canfield's business partner. She's been with him for the last 30 years.
Okay.
She's really that business head behind Chicken Soup for the Soul. So
Okay.
I love hanging out and being in her circle. And so yeah, I love the idea of permission granted, like grant yourself permission to be your most
Oh
authentic self.
yes.
Hmm.
I love that. You'll hear my closing remark and probably I need to read her book too. Um, Very cool. Okay, and the last question. What is bringing you joy right now? What lights you up?
Hmm. What brings me joy is my legacy business, is my community. I started the business thinking that I would be helping women and empowering women and really that solopreneur. And I still am a solopreneur, and I now have cultivated this gorgeous, amazing, positive, vibrant, ambitious community.
Mm-hmm.
And, I started that academy 3 years ago. And there's like people that started with me 3 years ago are still in this community, still contributing. I didn't expect that. I didn't know that I would have this amazing community. Most programs, you're finished with a program and you lose contact.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually created my model is where I offer a mastermind every month, and everyone's welcome to come and there's no cost. So again, there's that idea of service.
Mm-hmm.
And I just did it because it felt right. And then what's
Yeah.
happened is this community is stayed gelled together, and they're just like so excited and proud to be part of Dare to Declare. So that gives me so much joy. I got to see them in person, and I get to see some of them again on Sunday. I'm actually traveling to Toronto. It's about 3 hours from
Okay.
me, and hang out with
Nice.
them. Yeah, that gives me joy.
Yeah. I love it. The community. And for those of us who are, further out, I know we have our global academy. We hope to have you to see you in person too. But thank you, Debbie, for sharing your journey. Such a unique story about where you've been and how you've, really navigated life through ease. I know that's your word, but it felt like it. It wasn't, even though there were challenges and peaks and valleys, it just seems like you moved organically based on your feeling and your belief and your faith. And look at where life has taken you. You are, like you said, not only financially just exponentially grown, but I bet grown spiritually, emotionally, mentally, as a mom, as a wife. And I'm so happy to be connected to you. I'm so thrilled that you decided to join the podcast to share your story because I think so many women and men will be able to take this and really feel inspired and it's impacting them. They may be where you are, where you were, and they can say, oh, I'm not alone. That's the reason why we have this podcast. So thank you for sharing. Can you share with everyone how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. The best way is through my website. It has a calendar on there for booking if anybody wants to pop in and have a conversation. It's free as well. There's resources on there. You can also connect to all my social media handles. I'm everywhere like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and so forth.
Mhm.
So my website is my name, Debbi with just two B's and an I, Sluys.com, or you can find it under Dare, the number 2, declare.com.
Wonderful. And we'll put those in the show notes for everyone. So you can follow Debbi on Instagram, Facebook, and then check out her academy. She has her academy. She has workshops, mini workshops. She also has a magazine, y'all, she did not talk about, where if you're doing vision boarding, you can get the magazine and do your own vision board for your and in your comfort of your own home or with your girlfriends or your classroom or whatever. She does it for couples, for kids, for women's retreats. Obviously, she's everywhere, and she has her podcast. So feel free to check out Dare to Declare podcast on all the platforms as well, and we'll put that in the show notes. But again, thank you, Debbi. We so enjoyed your story and hearing just how you share and give to the world with your gift that no one else has. And I'm so happy to see you walking in that truth. It's a beautiful thing. I love it.
Thank you so much.
Love it. And for all the mompreneurs out there, if you enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share with another person. The greatest gift you can give is to share something you heard that touched your soul, because you never know who it can touch as well. Subscribe to the Modern Mompreneur podcast. Subscribe to Dare to Declare podcast. Follow her as well. And always remember to give yourself permission to follow your dreams, because you never know what's on the other side and whose lives you can impact. So thank you guys again for listening to the Modern Mompreneur podcast. Until next time, y'all be blessed.